was hydro-dipped by one Lob Instagon. And this is where I keep my dust. This is natron combined with the ashes of spells. And I'm going to use it to clear the space. Just a little bit. How many of you have heard the new My Chemical Romance song? That's very exciting. So for the videos this week, I am using my Jack-o'-lantern tarot. I really love the illustrations of these cards. And we're going to start with the sign of Taurus. So Taurus, if you would, just kind of set your intention for the reading and allow any thoughts or concerns that you have to rise up into the forefront of your thoughts. And just wait there. Now, if any of those concerns are stressful to you or they're causing you anxiety, I invite you to gently breathe through that energy. As you inhale, draw in the divine white light of Source. And then as you exhale, just release any of that tension and allow it to return to Source. And it will be transmuted for you. All right, so I'm going to get started with your reading, Taurus. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to write down your timestamp for the reading. So your timestamp is right around 6:30. Okay. And now we will get started in the past for you, Taurus. Looking over the reading, we have a fair number of pentacles, a lot of minor arcana, a couple of major arcana cards, one of which is the Magician coming out in the past in the reverse. The Magician is all about this creative force. Now, the Magician is associated with the sign, or with the planet rather, of Mercury, and associated with the signs of Virgo and Gemini as an accessory to that, but more so related to the planet of Mercury, that swift movement, the powers of manifestation, and the connection to air elemental energy. So we see here on the hat of the Magician, this lemniscate, showing that the fountain of energy that they have to draw from for their manifestations is infinite. Here in the past, we see, or here in the background, rather, we see that there are some gentle rolling hills, but no big mountains, so obstacles easily overcome. And we have some big fluffy clouds in the sky that are not storm clouds. They're nice, big, fluffy, like I think they call them cumulonimbus clouds, the really big, fluffy ones, that stimulate the imagination more so than would cause turbulence or turmoil. Now, this card is in the reverse. In the past, there could have been something that you were able to manifest for yourself, Taurus, and that is what has brought you into the current situation, the current state of affairs. So we're going to move on to the significator. The significator is right at the center of the spread, and it shows where you, the querent, are in the midst of the entire story that we are telling with the particular tarot reading that we're doing today. And then the crossing card is going to be any conditions that are crossing you. So that could be good things. It could also be things that are less desirable. So the card that we have in the place of the significator, Taurus, is the Queen of Swords. And she's in the upright. The Queen of Swords can potentially have skeletons in her closet. We have, both with the Queen of Swords and with the card crossing it, which is the Seven of Pentacles, we have these specters, these ghouls up in the sky. Here on the Queen of Swords, she has a vulture sitting here on top of her throne. Now, the Queen of Swords speaks the truth, promotes the truth, no matter who is hurt by it. When she shows up in the reverse, she can be doing this in a very manipulative way. She can be very punitive and very destructive to others through those manipulations and machinations. But where we see the Queen of Swords showing up in the upright position, she is actually very much interested in justice. This is water of air energy. So the truth is still a bit tainted by our emotions. And so we see that she's got her foot on this jack-o'-lantern, kind of like putting one's foot on a decapitated head almost, right? She has in the arm of the throne, these could be vultures, they could be eagles. It's a bit difficult to tell because of how the beak... Oh, geez. We lost focus. because of how the beak is depicted. Let me see if I can bring that back. There we go. And we see this little crow, which crows are messengers. We see that crow tucked behind the throne. When the Queen of Swords is laid out in the spread, she is looking to the future. So you are looking to the future right now. You're speaking your truth. And the truth that you are speaking is that you are not perhaps being adequately compensated for the work that you're doing, or rather that you are evaluating the work that you are doing in relation to the compensation that you're receiving. So when this card shows up reversed, that would be a good time to perhaps think about changing jobs. But because this is the crossing card, the crossing conditions, it's always read as an upright card. So where we have the significator is the Queen of Swords, and the Seven of Pentacles is then your crossing card. You are talking a lot to the people around you about how much you are contributing to certain situations and what it is that you expect in return. So this can be in a workplace, but it can also be in situations where perhaps there's a friendship where you're always paying for your friend when you go out and do things together, or you always have to go and travel to meet them somewhere. Or even you might have a friend who gives too much, and they might be giving you gifts that are very extravagant or spending a lot of money on you, and it might be making you uncomfortable, and it might make you feel like there's an imbalance there. So there are all kinds of possibilities, and that's what we're looking at with that Queen of Swords crossed by the Seven of Pentacles, that you're going to be talking to people about this. Now, this is a situation that it is possible you have manifested for yourself. And in that case, you are going to also want to evaluate, when I was putting my intention out to the universe, what was it that I didn't communicate properly in doing that? And that's about the Queen of Swords too. Let's look down here at the Imam Silai. So the Imam Silai is below the place of the significator, and it represents the origins and foundations upon which the midheaven, the goal or destiny, which we'll be looking at when we get above the place of the significator. It's the origins and foundations upon which that will be built. And the card that we have showing up in the Imam Silai is the Seven of Cups. And this card is showing up, Taurus, for you in the reverse. So all of these different situations, you might feel like you don't have access to that right now. And this could have to do with this Seven of Pentacles as well. We've got two sevens. Sevens kind of lack balance. They're kind of intermediary steps. And here we have the two passive sevens in the minor arcana, the pentacles associated with the element of earth, and the cups associated with the element of water. So these are kind of like wait and see type pentacles, right? As opposed to the Seven of Swords or the Seven of Wands, which have immediate action that needs to be addressed. But the Seven of Cups here, there could be resources that you don't have access to. That is the reason why you are going through this evaluation process with the Seven of Pentacles. And those resources, if you had them, you would be able to access all of these other options, if that makes sense. Such that you are needing to make some serious adjustments in the current situation such that you will be able to gain access to these options, whatever they might be. Good options and bad options. It could be you don't have enough time. It could be you don't have enough money. All of these things are possible. So here for you, Taurus, in the position of your own perspectives on the current situation, we have another 7. We have the 7 of Wands. You are taking action, and you have risen above those around you to kind of a vantage point, a point of advantage, such that those around you might now perceive you as a potential target, that you need to be brought back down to their level in order to maintain their idea of what order is. But of course, things change, people evolve, and sometimes you evolve beyond those around you. And that's what we see with the 7 of Wands. The owl up here depicts the psyche, and the bat depicts good fortune in this deck. And here, what we have is that this person's psyche is attacking their good fortune. So there can also be elements of self-sabotage. But this is one of the active 7s. So I see that from your perspective, Taurus, you are starting to take some kind of action in the current situation to open these things back up to yourself. Now, from an outside person's perspective, we have a really interesting card coming out there, I have to say. It is the Page of Swords, and it's showing up in the reverse. Now, when we see the Page of Swords in the reverse, this can be spying, Taurus. This can be people browsing your social media heavily, looking for the dirt, what is going on in your life. It can be people eavesdropping on your conversations in a work environment or in a social setting. If you're at a party and you're kind of a little loosened up in the social environment and someone is there trying to get information about you, they might be kind of hanging around in the periphery, eavesdropping on your conversations. So it's very interesting that we have that coming out. Because I don't think that you're making a lot of things very secret right now, Taurus. We did have the Queen of Swords coming out in the upright. Now, another possibility with this Page of Swords in the reverse, it could be that those around you perceive that you don't have accurate information. So where you're coming out very strong with this Queen of Swords energy, they're perceiving more of a Page of Swords energy and Page of Swords in the reverse, where you don't have the information. But I do think that you had accurate information, and this is just a perception on their part. So those are some things that could be going on for you in the current situation, Taurus. And now we're going to move on to the future. The future, the future, the future, the future. And in the future, we have the 3 of Wands showing up in the upright. So we have this first owl returning, and we have all these other owls up in the sky headed back toward this person who's here in the foreground. They also have their foot on top of this jack-o'-lantern. It's a power stance. We see that here with the Queen of Swords, right? And the 3 of Wands is about the energies which you have put out into the world. You start to see that returning to you. You start to see the payoff for those things. So it's not that your information in the current situation is incorrect. Perhaps it is just incomplete, or that it's going to take a little bit more time for the work that you've put in to pay off. But remember that this is something that you manifested for yourself, Taurus. Keep that in mind and in heart. So here in your hopes and fears, we have the Eight of Pentacles showing up reversed. And this, of course, is counter to your own perspectives, where we have the Seven of Wands. Remember, I said that the Seven of Wands is a very transitory energy, that the sevens are unstable and therefore unbalanced, and they must give way to the next stage. Well, as far as Taurian energy is concerned, there is a striving for comfort and stability. And so what I see here in your hopes and fears, Taurus, whatever that Taurus energy is in your chart, you might be afraid that you're never going to have this stable career environment. And that's why this Eight of Pentacles is showing up in the reverse. Here, the pumpkin and the psyche are kind of burdening almost the person who is working here. That's quite a lot of headgear to be wearing that's not protective in any way, right? They're not wearing safety goggles. And perhaps soon they will never need safety goggles again. Just keep that in mind. Always obey the OSHA handbook. It's there for a reason. We also have that pumpkin kind of sitting here on this bench rather than this figure having dominion over that energy, almost being burdened by fortune, psyche, and obligation. And I say that because the card is coming out reversed, specifically. Those might be things that you're feeling at this time, Taurus. But do know that the payoff is coming. And that might be why I think the people around you who might perceive that you don't have the correct information, they might not themselves have the correct information. All of these things, it's possible for them to be true at the same time. If that's the case in your particular situation. So now we're going to look at the midheaven, which is going to be the direct result of what we saw down here in the Imum with the Seven of Cups in the reverse. So if you are unable, for whatever reason, to open those options up for yourself, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to have the new financial beginning that you desire. So there might be delays in that area. Now, this Ace of Pentacles is also pure earth energy. So very grounding, very stable energy. Could be a stabilization of the situation. And where the card is showing up in the reverse, it doesn't mean that that won't be happening, especially when we see these cards in the future. What it means is that there could be potential delays, and that there are additional steps that are going to need to be taken in order to open this up for you. And I do think that it is related to having more options open to yourself, opening up more options to yourself. And so for for your final outcome card, we're going to talk about how are we going to open up those options, right? The final outcome is kind of like the advice part, the warnings can show up here. All of those things are possible. And what we have coming out in that position is the Hermit. We do see possibly the skeleton of Orion or some ancient god who shows up as that particular constellation. We think of that as being Orion, but he has been many different deities throughout time. Orion is just related to one particular mythology that we have brought into the modern and westernized idea of constellations. But there are a lot of spells in the coffin texts related to this particular entity, is known as Sa. So we have him overhead, and this again harkens back to these specters looming up in the sky, right? All of these different thoughts and ideas from other people. But here they're made concrete. And the best way to access all of those thoughts and ideas from other people is to talk to them about it. Just speak to them plainly and directly, like you absolutely know how to do with this Queen of Swords energy. The Queen of Swords does not mince words. She is there to accomplish a purpose, and that purpose is to uncover the truth. This also is in opposition to, and when I say in opposition, so the reason that I call the card at the bottom the Imam Silai and the card at the top the Midheaven is because I like to imagine that there is a 12 houses wheel laid out on top of my Celtic cross spread. And I kind of work the cards all in together so that they form a grid. So when I say these two cards are in opposition to each other, you could imagine that the Page of Swords would be down near the 5th house, and the Hermit card could be up by the 11th house. So factoring that in as well, 5th house has to do with creativity, it has to do with romance. It's all the things that we're passionate about. So somebody's outside perspective looking in on your situation, they could be spying on what you're passionate about, or inversely, they might think that you have false information regarding your passions. And the best way to correct all of these things and bring this money in much sooner, bring this concretion, because this Ace of Pentacles also is going to represent the final stages of this manifestation that you have put into practice in the past. The manifestation part of this is over. Now we just have to wait for it to play out. But part of that is going to be adjustments along the way. So where we have the Hermit card showing up in the reverse, the time for introspection has passed. And it is time now for you to come down from the mountaintop and rejoin society and talk to people, network with people. And so that would be why this card also, if we're laying out that 12 houses wheel, it's showing up in the 11th house, which has to do with your social groups, and it has to do with things like social media and networking. So that is going to be your reading for this week, Taurus. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to be doing Virgo and Capricorn next. And then after I have read for those signs, I'm going to go over to the members side of the channel and do some crystal scrying with this beautiful tiger hematite. You can see it's got little threads of tiger's eye running through it, little veins of it. You can see them kind of flashing there. It's got beautiful red banding, and then we also have, that kind of grayish, silverish hematite there. It's a very beautiful stone. gotten some interesting messages this week. So if that is interesting to you, you are cordially invited to join us. But your presence here on the channel is greatly appreciated in whatever form or fashion it takes. So now I'm going to flip these cards over and I'm going to do the Virgo reading. I like to flip the cards over rather than shuffling them back into the deck, and that way by element you don't get any repeats in the elemental video. And that's just something that I like to do. I feel like the messages will come out anyway. Oh, Maria, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for coming today. All right, so Virgo, if you would like to set your intention for the reading and allow some ideas that you have you'd like to address in the reading, allow those things come up to the forefront of your thoughts. And just let them wait there patiently so we can address them. Now, if these are things that cause you stress or discomfort, I invite you to breathe through that tension. So take a deep breath in and draw the divine white light of Source down into your body, to the crown of your head, down through the soles of your feet, so you're utterly filled with divine white light. And then as you exhale, just release any tension or discomfort that you might be feeling, and it will be returned to Source, and it will be transmuted. Virgo, we have a very interesting reading for you so far. Oh, thank you, Cecil, and I'm so glad you're here. Don't worry about interrupting the readings. I always love to hear from you. All right, so let me write down your timestamp, and then we can get started with your reading. Okay. And again, I see one major arcana in your reading, Virgo, and mostly minor arcana, and mostly the numbered cards and not the court cards. We do have one court card for you, and I'll be getting to it shortly. So it looks like a lot of kind of like, oh, I understand. It looks like there's some like mundane type things. There's kind of a wrapping up energy to your reading this week, Virgo, of things, situations perhaps coming to a stage of completion or entering a new phase. But it's not something that's life-shattering or earth-changing or vice versa. It's just kind of like some mundane housework, paperwork type details, things like that. So in the past for you, Virgo, we have the Two of Pentacles, and this card is showing up in the upright in the past, which lets us know that continuing into the current situation, this is either a business partnership, and this would be somebody with whom you're on very good equal footing, but it could also be that you are bringing your life into balance at this time, Virgo. So this actually looks like a very Virgo reading for you, that we're talking about organization, wrapping up loose details, and compartmentalizing things. So just a very Virgo reading all around so far, from what I can see over here. I'm not just saying that based on the one card that I've pulled. We do see with the Two of Pentacles, though, that they are in a bit of a precarious position. So this is not the kind of balancing act that can be maintained long term, but we are working on achieving that balance. And from there, we're going to achieve the normalization of the Six of Pentacles. We'll see. We'll see how close we get to that as I go through the reading. So now we're looking at the place of the significator. And this is where we have our one lone court card in your reading this week, Virgo. So this is definitely you showing up in your reading as the Page of Pentacles. Now, the pages are earth energy and pentacles are earth energy. So Page of Pentacles is earth energy. It's very close to being pure earth elemental energy. The Page of Pentacles, the pages are also about bringing things down into the physical plane in that manifestation concretion process. So where we see the Page of Pentacles, this is a new offer coming in for you. It could be a job. It could be an investment opportunity. It could be somebody just giving you money. But the Page of Pentacles can be an ongoing basis, money coming into. So this could be an addition of a new income stream for you, Virgo. But this is definitely you showing up as that Page of Pentacles. So a very precocious and kind of immature energy in regards to that drawing down and making concrete. Certainly not as sustainable as we see with the Queen of Pentacles, but still a very good energy to be showing up here in the place of the significator for you, Virgo. This represents you in the reading, and it sits at the very center of the spread. So crossing the significator in your reading, Virgo, we have the Seven of Swords. Now, this could be self-sabotage. This could be someone else sabotaging you. It could be betrayal. It could be treachery around you. And you have been able to manifest this abundance for yourself despite being a little inexperienced as a page, and despite people actively trying to sabotage you or bring you down. The foxes, or the bats here, sorry, it looks like a fox bat, one of those fruit bats. The bats represent good fortune. So you can see that this person here is kind of stealing all of this good fortune in the form of these swords from whoever is in these huts back here. So despite that, I feel like you have been able to manifest what you have needed financially in the current situation. And this can be all kinds of underhanded dealings. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is targeting you and is out to get you. But this can also be the larger scheme of things, that maybe people aren't choosing you for opportunities, That's a possibility. It could be that people are just kind of not saying nice things about you when you're not around, because that is even more damaging than saying bad things about you when you're not around. At least then they're talking about you and what you're doing. In certain situations, of course. So down here in the MMCLI, and this is going to be down at the bottom of the spread, Virgo, and it represents all of the origins and foundations upon which the midheaven, the goal or destiny up here, all of the things that situation will be built upon. And we have a really good card showing up for you in the MMCLI to be a strong foundation in this situation, which is the Three of Pentacles. And this card is upright. The Three of Pentacles is about group work. It is also about your professional reputation being quite good, so that you are starting to become established in a particular field. And this can be in a social group, this can be in a financial sense as well. And it's an excellent card to be seeing with the significator being the Page of Pentacles. We show that you're really in the same mindset as the environment that you are surrounded by, which is incredibly helpful. So here, from your perspective on the situation, we have the Six of Cups. And the Six of Cups is about nostalgia. It is about things from our childhood returning. And you could almost see the bat, the kind of hood that this figure is wearing. You could see that as like something like rose-tinted glasses, like only seeing the good fortune from your past and not seeing the negative effects that other things had on you in past situations. We're not looking at your trauma with this. We're not looking at the painful parts. When we see the Six of Cups showing up in the upright, you are expecting or hoping for something to return from the past. Or perhaps you're even seeing come into practice that something is returning from the past for you. And it is going to have to do with this professional reputation and this group work. Maybe you worked on a project a while ago and you've completely forgotten about it. And then all of a sudden it comes back up again. Maybe it was a scholarly article that you worked on when you were in school, and you just kind of forgot about it. And then later it becomes this majorly cited text. The same thing, like if you are in a musical project that maybe you made an album like 10 years ago, and now people are kind of coming around and listening to it. So all of those things are possible. And so here in the outside perspective, looking in on your situation, Virgo, we have the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands in reverse like this is waiting for something to reach a state of closure. So where this is showing up as an outside perspective looking in on your situation, Virgo, it could be that because we have the Page of Pentacles, maybe there's a new job situation, and your employer is waiting for all the paperwork to be sorted out. That's possible. The Eight of Wands here could be that this thing that you're waiting for to come in from the past, maybe the circumstances are not yet right. But the Eight of Wands in the reverse basically just means delays. So other people looking in on your situation might see some delays there. Here in the future for you, Virgo, the future, the future, the future. We have the Strength card. Now, this card is showing up in the reverse, and it's showing up in the future. So that means the potential is there for you to have strength, or the potential is there for you to need to be strong in the future. It might also be a warning to you about situations in the future where you might need to have strength. Now, if we look at the figures on this card, we have the main character here. We have the lion here. This is Leo's card in the major arcana. We also have these figures here in the backdrop. So we have this tree and we have this person up here in the clouds. And you could think of that as ancestral influence over your life. So these are people who have come before you. They're part of your lineage. They're part of your blood. They've passed on to the other side, which also grants them access to much more knowledge and information that can be very useful. And there might be an indication here that in this future situation, you should call upon your ancestors, call upon your deities for strength so that you don't have to go through it alone. We also see the lemniscate, this infinity symbol on the hat. On this one, it looks like an 8. And indeed, the strength card is the 8th card, but it is indeed the infinity symbol on most cards. So what that indicates is that the source of this person's strength is infinite. We're also talking about other things that are infinite, the infinity of time in both directions, right? And how the sequencing of that is what determines the events of our lives. But you can shuffle things around. Things get shuffled around in your brain all the time regarding the past. What was the actual sequence of events? Now those things kind of change based on our memory and our comparative memory to others. Who remembers it in one way and who remembers it in another way? And then all of a sudden we've got a split timeline. The same thing can happen in the future that we haven't gotten there yet. And so there are ways to tap into that and leverage it as strength in future situations for you, Virgo. So now, and what I want to say about that, just to seal up that particular tangent or part of the reading, is that you then are taking agency over your own actions, and that being the strength that you possess in a situation. Okay, so now we're going to move on to your hopes and fears. And in your hopes and fears, Virgo, we have the Ace of Wands. So this is another fire sign card. And it is kind of parallel to what we were talking about with the Strength card in the future, that you're hoping you will have power. You're hoping you will have that agency, that strength. And we do see this outside influence showing up here in the clouds. We see the idea of the psyche over here, right? This isn't an actual owl showing up on the card. We could have had owls in the sky. We could have had an owl perched nearby. But in fact, what we have is the idea of the psyche. This could be the subconscious. It could be the superconscious. It could be the parts of our mind that we are not tapped into completely at any given moment, that kind of operate separately from what we have going on. And in fact, a lot of our creative ideas would come from there. So that Ace of Wands also has to do with creative powers and is the elemental energy of fire. So these two ideas, the Strength card in the reverse and the Ace of Wands, those two go together very much when we're talking about the future in this reading. So now we're going to get to the midheaven, and that is going to be based upon this Three of Pentacles that we had in the MMCLI, where we were talking about good professional reputation and being able to work effectively in groups, group work that you've done. And the card that we have in the midheaven is the Nine of Swords, and it's showing up in the reverse. So here we see a very sad pumpkin in duress, a couple of very sad pumpkins in duress that are kind of squished under this bed that's in the shape of a hand. We have all these swords hanging over the bed, a lot of tension and stress and anxiety. And you see two different, I'm of two minds on it, right? The two different owls sitting there on the head of the bed, representations of a split psyche. But where we have this card showing up in the reverse in the midheaven, that shows that your anxieties might be coming to an end very soon. And that is going to be based on this, the Three of Pentacles. And this opportunity with the Page of Pentacles that you are manifesting at this time. So we have strong elemental earth energy showing up in your chart, which is very passive energy. It's very fixed. It's very grounded energy. And then what you are hoping for and what you are striving to achieve is this active fire energy. So there is a lot of grounding here. And we have a lot of these fire energy cards over here on the right side of the reading, where we had the Eight of Wands in the reverse, that there could be delays that people are perceiving in a process, where we have the Strength card in reverse, that that there may be a need for you to call upon other sources for your strength in the future, and where we have this Ace of Wands. This is the only upright wand in your reading that you're hoping for this power, this agency, your own creative, manifestive powers. And so the final outcome card for you, Virgo, is another wand, and it is reversed. And it is the Two of Wands. Now, the Two of Wands is about your planning process. It is about foresight. It is about seeing what is coming. And the final outcome card, I always hate when this card comes out in the final outcome, because it's basically saying you're just not going to see it until you get there. Sorry. And I really hate leaving readings on that note. But I do feel like I've already given a lot of information in this reading. And any clarifying that I would do would only be relevant in a situational way, if that makes sense. So this Two of Wands coming out in the reverse in the final outcome is, I think Virgos have a tendency, that energy has a tendency to be very planning oriented, very compartmentalization oriented, right? And this is related to these delays that we're seeing from the outside perspective looking in. Now, if we have the Two of Wands and we add it to the Eight of Wands, then together that's creating the Ten of Wands, which is about burdens and oppression, and is somewhat similar to the Nine of Swords. But we're seeing that that Nine of Swords is kind of the influence of that anxiety is going to be leaving your life soon. So don't push too hard to draw these burdens unto yourself. I think that any planning that you try to do at this time outside of what is reasonable, what is a reasonable amount of foresight into the future. Obviously, if you need to pay rent at the end of the month, you want to be doing things that are lining it up. You need to be acting in good faith, basically. So good faith type planning. Planning things that are going to make it possible for you to pay your bills, for you to see your family, things like that, that are, what I consider to be baseline activities. Eating, seeing your loved ones, paying your rent. Make sure that you're maintaining those activities and understand that what is coming in for you very soon is going to be alleviating for you, Virgo, that anxiety. So that is going to conclude the Virgo reading for this week. Thank you for coming. And I will be reading for Capricorn next. And then after the Capricorn reading, I'm going to go over to the members side of the channel and do some crystal scrying with this beautiful piece of tiger hematite. So if that interests you, you are cordially invited. But your presence here on the channel is appreciated, no matter what form it takes. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to the sign of Capricorn. And I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the cards a bit. So Capricorn, if you would like to go ahead and set your intention for the reading, and just allow any concerns, any thoughts you'd like to address to rise up into the forefront of your mind, and just let them wait there patiently while I shuffle the cards and deal them out so they can be addressed. Now, if any of these things are stressful to you or they're causing you anxiety, I invite you to breathe through that energy. So inhale and draw in the divine white light of Source, and then exhale and release any of that strain, any of that energy that is causing you discomfort. It will return to Source and it will be transmuted. So let me write down your timestamp. Let's talk about the past. So here in the past for you, Capricorn, we have the Knight of Wands in the reverse. This would have been, this is fire of fire energy, so very close to an elemental fire energy, and is very much like burning the candle at both ends. So I can see that you've left that activity in the past. It could have been a period of your life that was very tumultuous. It could have been a period of your life where you were very active. but it would have been an unsustainable level of activity for you. And so it's good that that has abated into the current situation. Here, in the place of the significator, this is where you are currently, Capricorn. This card is at the center of the spread, and it represents you within the reading. Now, the card that we have there is the Tower card. This is a destructive change in your life. We have the Tower card here. This is Mars energy, Mars planetary energy, which is very aggressive and destructive. And we see these people falling to their demise. We do have like a bat depicted on the front of this tower, so it could seem as though your good fortune is falling. But we will look at that a little more closely in the rest of the reading. It can be associated with Aries energy and Scorpio energy, but mostly it is that transformative energy of Mars. And here we have crossing it the Ace of Swords. And the Ace of Swords is going to be read upright because it's the crossing card. It doesn't really matter with this card. But the point being that the Ace of Swords is the agency which you exercise over your own existence, Capricorn. So whatever this tower situation is, you are the one who is tearing down that tower. You are actively involved in the destruction of that situation. And so that probably is your preference. Now we're moving from one very strong active energy of this Knight of Wands into this very strong active energy of the Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords is a much more constructive kind of energy. But we do see, of course, this vulture here waiting to gather the scraps that are left behind during this transformation. We do have a bat here, and it looks like we have a murder of crows in the sky as well. The crows are messengers, so there could be a lot of different information flying around at this time. We do see that the sky is in a transitional state on this card as well. This could be dawn or dusk. And we have the moon, a little sliver of the moon, so this could be right before the new moon where this cycle switches over. All of this symbolizing this new beginning. And we also see in the background these mountains that represent obstacles which may need to be overcome. So you, Capricorn, are actively involved in the situation that is occurring in the current environment, rather. Let's look at the Imam Silai. So this is going to be the foundation. This is going to represent the foundations upon which the destiny or midheaven will be built. This is all of the origin story for that information, and it is below the significator, whereas the midheaven is above the significator. Why I do that is I like to imagine that there is a 12 houses wheel laid out over my Celtic cross spread, so that I can also do like oppositions or squares or trines if I feel like doing that. It lays it out on a grid very nicely for my analysis. So down here in the Imam Silai, we have the Two of Cups. And we have on this card strong fixed energy coming in the guise of Leo. But this is a water card. It's a passive energy of partnership and perhaps even love. We have here sitting on this pumpkin either a crow or a raven acting as a messenger. We have the prying eyes of others here in the background, represented by this cloud that is shaped like a skull. We have these two figures here in the foreground exchanging emotions. There's a reciprocity of emotion there with the Two of Cups. So this could be a friendship, this could be a marriage, it could be a romantic partnership. It is this exchange on an even level of emotion that is very stable with that fixed sign energy, stable but passionate. Um, so that union that you have with this other person is going to set the foundation for what we look at in the midheaven. Let's find out some more about this. So, from your perspective, we have the sun. This is associated with the luminary, the sun, and by adjunct can also be associated with the sign of Leo that we see showing up on the Two of Cups card. But mostly is associated, and it is a good card no matter how it shows up in a reading. And in fact, I often see the Sun card showing up in the reverse just by merit of the fact that things usually turn out pretty much okay. But how often are they really like perfect? How often do you really end up with that storybook ending, happily ever after? So having the Sun card show up in the reverse like this is a good sign. And it is good that you have this perspective going into the situation, Capricorn, that your perspective is that everything is pretty good. It's almost perfect, just not quite. Here, from an outside perspective, looking in, this could be your partner's perspective, but it could also be other people associated with this situation. It doesn't necessarily have to be how your partner views things. We do have the Five of Pentacles, and this card is showing up right. And the Five of Pentacles is a card associated with scarcity mentality and with lack. But we do have this bat depicting good fortune up here on the wall. And we see some pentacles there that perhaps if these two figures were able to summon their strength as one and were not being embraced by death, that they would be able to reach that. Maybe they got very, very close and just were not able to quite grasp what it was they were striving to attain, what they were striving to manifest. Because, of course, the pentacles are coins associated with money, but it's also associated with the element of earth, which is talking about the concretion of our manifestations on this plane. So, someone looking from the outside in on your situation might be perceiving lack somewhere. And I wouldn't want to put too much judgment upon it just because it's going to be different in all situations. If you are trying to move in with a roommate, for example, and you're very good friends with this person, they might feel like you don't make enough money to cover your bills and expenses. And so it wouldn't be a good situation for them to move into. With a romantic partner, it could be them, but it could also be family talking in their ear about these things. But with the Five of Pentacles, the money is there. It's just that for whatever reason, it's not readily accessible. So here in the future, we have another five. And the fives are Mars energy. So they are a transitional energy, and they are associated with the planet of Mars. And in the future, we have the Five of Swords showing up in the reverse. So the Five of Swords is a card about victories that are very decisive and divisive. These represent friends that we used to have that are now gone from our lives because something really divided us and split us apart. And you win in that situation. But what is lost is that partnership. So this showing up in the reverse in the future for you, Capricorn, could be a warning about your current partnership, whether it's romantic or a friendship or some kind of business arrangement that is heavily built upon your emotional connection to another person. This could be cautioning you about that. It could also be cautioning you to let go of certain things that have the potential to be divisive. So, for example, if somebody is very staunchly on one side of a political situation, and you might believe very differently from them, but perhaps there's much more investment there for them and they take it much more seriously. It would be very callous to bring that up on a regular basis and create strife with it, if that makes sense. And it can be all kinds of issues like that. Like, you know, it's a lot about ideology because it is a sword card. So the swords are our ideology. Here we see this person kind of hoarding this good fortune that is the spoils of the conflict, that good fortune being the spoils. And the warning with this card showing up in the reverse, that if you are too invested in the conflict of it, that your good fortune has the potential to become someone else's good fortune. So up here in your hopes and fears, Capricorn, we have the Queen of Wands reversed. This would be another fire sign associated card. We see similar imagery to what we have on the Sun card, which is in opposition to the Queen of Wands here as your, as your outlook on the situation. I beg your pardon, I need to take a drink. So this Queen of Wands in the reverse, this is somebody who is not shining their brightest. It is sometimes associated with Leo traits in the detriment, in the lower vibrational plane. So catty behavior, gossiping, feeling the need to be the center of attention. You might be afraid that people are gossiping about you. You may be afraid that this partner is showing up for you as the Queen of Wands in the reverse also. And that be why things end up not working out. But that's just your hopes and fears. And rather than focusing on what could potentially be going wrong, it is more important to focus on the better and higher vibrational aspects of the situation. The sun literally is the divine light of source that I speak of all the time. So now we're going to look at the midheaven. the midheaven is going to be what is built upon this Two of Cups relationship that we're talking about down in the MMC line. So up here in the midheaven, we have the wheel. We have the wheel card, the Wheel of Fortune, and it is showing up in the reverse. We have all these fixed sign energies on the wheel card, showing the constancy of the progression of events. Cycles are constant, not such that the activities within the cycle remain the same, but rather the fixed element of the cycle is its perpetuity, its continuation through time. It's like a roller coaster being on a round track, right? There's ups and downs. You know where those are going to be. And sometimes you don't. Depends on where you are in the cycle. We see all these books on this card too. Everybody's holding a book. It could be like the Akashic Records. It could be the memory of time, that you remember these things throughout your life and you learn from them. And so the next time you go through that cycle, things are a little bit different and you're able to change them this time. And this is definitely a caution in regard to your relationships at this time, Capricorn, that whatever you act out in this relationship here, it looks very much like some of you might be going through a karmic relationship. And I don't really talk about those a lot on my channel because I'm not a relationship channel. I don't talk a lot about love readings on my channel. I only talk about them when they kind of come up, obviously, in the reading. Anything within this relationship, whether this is a love relationship, a friendship, a partnership, a roommate situation, anything that you don't resolve, you are going to be doomed to repeat. Henceforth, Capricorn. You're going to be doomed to repeat it again until you get it right. That will come up for you again. So what the final outcome is encouraging you to do in this situation is start from a brand new and fresh, clean slate. And it's going to be difficult to do that because you're going to have this little dog nipping at your heels. The loyalty to the self here, self-preservation, where parts of yourself are going to be screaming at you not to trust a situation because it reminds you of things that came before. But it's important to change your own behavior as well. So that's where this new beginning comes in. We have all of these mountains here in the background representing the conflict. Even here, this person is about to walk off this cliff, and that's why this little dog, who should be quite loyal, is biting this figure's heel. The figure also, look, that they have this bat here on the end of their pole. But I don't know that they're even aware of that, right? They're taking their good fortune for granted. And there are elements of that in when we see the Sun card showing up in the reverse. So Capricorn, I'm not trying to be hard on you this week. But I do want to perhaps put these things out there in a way that will give you food for thought and will perhaps help you navigate this situation in a fresh new light that will help you to avoid returning to old cycles and feeling doomed to repeat them. is a new My Chemical Romance song. You should go listen to it if you like My Chemical Romance. It's kind of exciting that they've put out new material. I am going to go over to the members side of the channel now and do the crystal scrying. And I want to thank all of you who support me here on the channel, who watch the readings, who comment, who like, share, subscribe. It is greatly always appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you again. Very, very soon.